Welcome to the wonderful world of government contracting. This is what you need to know to do business with the federal government, brought to you by Quimbee. My name is Eric Leonard, and I look forward to spending the next 60 minutes journeying down the rabbit hole of government contract law. With more than $600 billion in purchases annually, the federal government market alone offers tremendous opportunities. But proceed with caution. With opportunity comes risk, and missteps in the federal government contracting world can come with a hefty price that goes far beyond mere financial consequences. But with the right roadmap and guardrails, doing business with the federal government can be a profitable and significant revenue-generating endeavor. Now, you may ask, what does the U.S. federal government buy? Well, maybe the better question is, what doesn't the federal government buy? From missiles to relocation services to leases, federal government purchasing runs the gambit. But let me stress at the outset, and since we only have 60 minutes, the presentation today will focus on federal contracting. And although the government has a number of other methods at its disposal for spending its dollars, we're going to focus today on federal government contracting. Other methods include grants, financial assistance programs, cooperative agreements, other transaction agreements, to name a few. But for today, we want to focus on the world of how to do business with the federal government using their contracting authority. This presentation will highlight key risks, issues, and compliance obligations that any company should consider as it contemplates entering into the federal government marketplace. And as you'll hear today, government contracts are subject to unique and complex rules that govern all phases of contracting and performance. Failure to comply with these obligations, many of which generally do not exist in the commercial context, can subject a federal contractor to oversight enforcement as well as monetary and criminal penalties. In addition to discussing these obligations and risks, we will briefly discuss the elements of an effective government contracts compliance program. A compliance program is not a nice-to-have, but a must-have when doing business with the federal government. And finally, I'll offer some suggested strategies for managing compliance risk and obligations for federal contracting. So with that, let's get rolling. Contracting with the federal government, as well as state and local governments, involves a complex web of statutes, regulations, executive orders, and contract clauses, all of which create potential liabilities. These obligations and liabilities arise from various federal policies that empower the government to obtain value, shape markets, and promote competition. Thus, it's vital for a contractor to understand what it would undertake by partnering with the government. As a threshold matter, a bedrock principle of federal procurement is the requirement that all contracts must be awarded through full and open competition, unless an exception applies. This requirement derives from the Competition and Contracting Act and has significant implications for federal contractors, including potential for bid protest litigation and other challenges to contract awards. Once a contract is awarded, government contractors and subcontractors are subject to unique compliance obligations not familiar in the commercial setting. These obligations are based, as I noted earlier, on a variety of sources and sometimes shifting policy objectives. Therefore, a contractor will need to be prepared to implement appropriate policies and procedures or update their existing policies and procedures where possible to comply with all these unique obligations. When entering the federal marketplace, either as a prime contractor who would do business directly with the federal government or a subcontractor that does business directly with a higher tiered contractor, a contractor's personnel will be subject to certain core compliance obligations. These obligations are designed to promote ethics, integrity, and fairness, and to deter waste, fraud, and abuse in government procurements. Many of these obligations govern how a contractor's personnel interact with the government customers and partners. Today, we'll talk about a few of these, including prohibitions on bribes, kickbacks, gifts, and gratuities in connection with federal contracts and subcontracts, prohibitions on paying contingent fees to secure federal contracts, specific rules to prevent conflicts of interest, rules to protect the integrity of the procurement process, including certain restrictions on disclosure and receipt of procurement-related information, restrictions on hiring government officials, laws to prevent collusive bidding and other competitive conduct, and restrictions on lobbying for federal contracts. These are just a few of the ethics and integrity-based obligations imposed on government contractors, but we'll talk about these more a little later.